All right, hello, Hi-Fri fam. Hi-Fri here. Just wanted to give you guys a little special, quick teardown video today. I got a bunch of teardowns in the works, and I need to start uploading them. So we're gonna start with this one. This was provided to me by a friend of mine. Hey, Will. I don't know if you're watching this or not, but he sent me these over. These are GS Audio. So this is the GS Audio GD5, I believe. This is not their premium version. This is like the budget. They call it their sorry, not performance. Forget what they call it. But they have like a performance series and then like a budget series, and this is part of their budget series. But anyway, it is a 4BA, 1DD. So it's 1DD for bass, 2BA for mids, and then 2BA for treble. I believe these are all custom BA. They are built by E Audio, I believe. So no Knowles, no Belsing, or I mean no Knowles, no Sonyan or anything like that. But anyway, they're very nicely built. They have their own kind of profile here that I actually cloned. So this is the same shell, and I just made a clone of the shell, so you can see the nozzle shape and everything is the same. Okay, so where the connector would be, all that stuff is exactly the same. So this is a clone of the GS Audio shell. If you want to know how to clone and make your own shells, I will be doing a tutorial soon. But anyway, for now I figured I would take these apart. Now, the significance in these, so for anyone who's not familiar with GS Audio, they also manufacture IAMs for third parties. So essentially, like if you have a IAM in mind or like a design, you can send them and they will manufacture it for you. Of course, you have to have, like at least like 1,000 units or something, or like 100 units. So there's a minimum. You might be able to have like a single unit made, but the cost is going to be much more significant than if you were to have a bunch made. But anyway, there are other companies that use GS Audio to manufacture their IAMs, and also GS Audio is the OEM for not Final. I'm sorry, Fearless. So these are the same manufacturer as Fearless Audio. So the quality is somewhat representative of these IAMs if you are familiar with Fearless. So yeah, it's a very nice build. All their IAMs are very nicely built. They use silver cable, which has caused issues in the past. They've had a couple IAMs where the drivers were wired up incorrectly. A friend of mine sent me over his 12BA set that had drivers that were incorrectly wired. And that's just due to the fact that all the wires are the same color. Now that saves GS Audio money since they don't have to carry multiple colors of wire. But at the same time, there's no color coding, so you have to keep track of polarity. But they use silver wire, so it's a decent quality wire. It's silver. It is enamel coated. I'm not sure where they get it from. Some are like PVC or like vinyl coated, some sort of plastic, TP, FE or whatever you call it. Anyway, but yeah, so these are just enamel coated wires, but they are silver instead of copper. They may be silver coated copper. I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, and then another thing that I will highlight as far as their design goes. So they have these funky looking pieces here, and so you see like this gray structure. At first I wasn't sure what that was. I was like, is that some sort of silicone or putty? No, this is actually 3D printed. And we will take a look at this in a little bit because I find this very fascinating. But anyway, so we have the drivers. we have these 3D printed plasticky bits here, and then we have the tube. Now this is just your standard plastic tube or PVC tube that you use in IM. But in this case, they have coupled the tube to these printed inserts, and there are dampeners in there. Now, that's a good and a bad thing. Good in the sense that everything is nice and neatly housed in this one little chamber here. Also, if anybody's peeking at your IEMs, they can't really tell what you did as far as tuning goes, unless they were to take them apart. But the bad part is that, so the dampeners here, now they can adjust the print so they can kind of shift the dampener up and down a little bit, but realistically, the dampeners are all in like one location, where ideally you would probably want to push them further up in certain circumstances, and you would want to have them like further back in others. So for the treble BA, it's not a real problem to have them back here. But with dampeners, the way they work, so the closer they are to the driver, the less effect they have on the driver. But the farther a dampener is away from the driver, the more effect it has on the driver. Now, its range of effectiveness, according to Sonyan, is anywhere from 50% the length of the tube to 75% the length of the tube. But then you see companies like Moondrop who have the dampeners all the way at the end of the tube, which would be 100%. So it's up to the manufacturer how they want to do it. Now, these actually sound pretty decent. They're not bad sounding whatsoever. They're very cohesive. Cohesiveness is fine. Tuning's decent. It's not the best I've heard. They're kind of a neutral, flat kind of signature. Maybe a little on the boring side, if anything. And there's a little bit of timbre in the treble and stuff, a little bit of grain, but for the most part, it's very manageable. They did a very good job. Very well tuned IM, all in all. There are a couple questionable design choices, like for example, there's no venting anywhere on the shell. Now, so for the driver to breathe, what is happening here is it is just sucking up the air in this chamber and then just spitting it back out into the chamber. Now there is no driver flex, surprisingly, so I don't know if there's some sort of like blow-by where pressure is escaping out the back of the driver somehow, like going past the diaphragm. That's a possibility, especially with these like TWS style drivers. I've noticed some of them have a little bit of pressure leakage, which is fine because if you're making an IM sealed like this, you don't want to have to add an additional vent, although they may have a vent somewhere on the other side, and we will find out shortly. But anyway, yeah, so just an interesting design, the layout, how they have the driver kind of like off to the side there, and then here's the tube for the driver, so there's a little outlet, and then the tube just kind of comes down and meets with the other one. So very compact design, very nice. The fact that they were able to fit 4 BA and a single DD, and there's even room for a couple more BA. If you really wanted to fit some more in there, you could probably do like 1 or 2 more. But yeah, so anyway, so this is the GS Audio GD5, and we will go ahead and take it apart. Now this one I have already removed the faceplate, so we will take a look at this one first. Now, I believe these BA are customized. These are, like I said, they're e-audio BA. But if you notice, and I'll get in a little closer here, but you'll see these black PCBs. This is not really common to e-audio BA, at least any of the ones that I've had. They always have like green PCBs on the back, and they don't have this sort of hole stamp in the middle of the PCB. That is not a common thing. So I believe these are custom made balanced armatures. Now they're not branded. Most of e-audios are not branded, but like for instance, here is a Knowles, and you can see the PCB on the back. This one is like gray or clear. And then let's see, I don't know if I have any e-audio BA anywhere here. Yeah, I don't think I have any e-audio BA lying around. But anyway, yeah. So the black PCB is not a common feature. So, and then like I said, we have all the wires here, and they're all the same color. They kind of wrap into each other, and they meet at the little frequency divider board up here. And then they go to the input. So, and then there's the back of the dynamic driver. So, I will pause real quick and grab my clippers, and then we will take apart this shell. Alright guys, excuse me. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I am currently midway through my work week, and just pumping out a couple videos because there's really not much else I can do right now. I prefer to only work on IEMs on my days off because they take a lot of time to work on, and there's just not enough time before and after work for me to really focus in and get IEM building done. So unfortunately I'm not really working on any IEMs at the moment. I do have a couple of the AFEX units. These are units that are partially assembled. They're almost done. Just got to add the face plates and then add the lacquer. But this is what they look like raw. So these are just the raw 3D printed shells with the nozzles attached. And then on these I happen to have some reverse star lines, which are very nice tips with these IMs. But yeah, so there's a little sneak peek at the wiring. I'm using silver wiring as well. These are plastic shielded, they're not enamel coated. But yeah, all the connections are resined, and the wires are kept in place so they do not move at all. And that is to keep them from breaking, because silver wire is notorious for snapping. And so yeah, so these are like really stuck in every position at each connection, and a couple points in the middle, they're both stuck down, so those wires do not break. But yeah, so anyway, so back to the GS Audio IM. So here are the wires going to the little frequency divider board. Let's see if we can pull this off. Alright, so there is the, let me just try to zoom in a little bit. So there's the frequency divider board. We have a 5 ohm resistor. We have a, what does that say? I can't read that. Looks like a 2 ohm. I can't read that. 28 ohm? I don't know. And then we have another one right there. So there's really only one capacitor. And I think that's probably for the highs. It looks like they're just using one capacitor for the highs, and then everything else is just being you know, toned down a little bit by the resistors. So you would have like bass, mids, and then treble, and your treble has a capacitor and a resistor. But yeah, very simple, very simple frequency divider. So really it's only technically a one-way crossover, or like two-way crossover. But yeah, so essentially it's just cutting the lows out of the, I assume, the treble BA, and then the rest of it is being played at full frequency, including the mid-range BA. So anyway, I'm going to cut these wires because I cannot get through this resin to take them apart. Alright. There we go. Alright, so there's a better look at the board. So yeah, there's a 5 ohm, another 5 ohm, and I cannot for the life of me read that one in the middle. 2R4, so 2.4 ohms. I'm not sure. So we got 5 ohm, 5 ohm, and then it looks like 2.4, 2.5. And then there is the connector. I'll get the rest of this connector off. Recessed connectors, those are kind of nice. You know, keeps sweat and stuff out for the most part. Creates a good connection, but unfortunately I don't really like recessed connectors because they occupy a ton of space inside the shell, and that's me being like a DIYer and not very experienced with fitting, you know, drivers really close to each other. I like to have as much room in the shells as possible. Like, for example, I have these that I just built. They're just prototypes. They're nothing fancy, but it's a single balanced armature and a single 4mm dynamic driver. So 4mm dynamic driver and a balanced armature. This is actually like a hearing aid driver. So hearing aid, dynamic driver, and then a little dampener, and then a single full range BA with another. Oh, is there a dampener? No, it looks like I don't have a dampener on there. Well, anyway, I made the tube big enough to add a dampener. So, but yeah, like I said, they're just prototypes. I just thought it'd be funny to use like the smallest driver I had, which is a 4mm. I thought it'd be cool to see kind of what I can achieve with 4mm dynamic driver. Alright, so I'll take this apart. Now, unfortunately, whenever you're dealing with resin IM, the teardown has to be destructive. There's really not a way to disassemble a resin IM without some destruction of the shell. That's why I make copies, because if I really wanted to, I could just, you know, shove that inside the shell. Actually, where's the other one at? Do I have the other one? Yeah. So there's the other one. So if I really wanted to, I could. Oh no, which side is it? Is it this side? Yeah. Anyway, I can't really fit it because it's too. Oh, maybe I can there. But yeah, so if I wanted to, you know, I could fit the drivers back in afterwards. But yeah, now I gotta get them out. Oh god. Well, let's see if I can get them out. Alright, I'll pause for a minute and I'll be right back. Alright, oh well, I had to destroy my clone shell, but whatever, it happens. And I accidentally nicked the back of the driver there. So let me zoom back out because we're in a little bit close. So there's our 4BA. Let's attack these BA real quick. We'll get the dynamic driver disconnected. All right. Anyway, all right, so I'll just stop here because I'm starting to break the 3D printed plastic. So there's the dampener. So you see, so this is inside the that gray piece, and it is just a little, not even like a Knowles style. This saves on money, on cost for the manufacturer. These are much cheaper to produce than the Knowles style dampeners. So they just make like a 2.5mm little, you know, black dampener. So this would be like 300, maybe 500 value. Depends on what they use. It could even be 6, but judging by the way the light's coming through, this is most likely just a 300. But anyway, yeah, so just a little sticker kind of dampener, and that's what they're using for the mids, it looks like. So that came out of the mid BA. So just a little bit of dampening, not much. They could be using more dampening, but you know, that's all they're using. And yeah, here's a better look at it with the treble BA. So you can see here. So you see there's where the dampener is being held. So the way these are printed, you have the tube that couples on to the end here, and you have this little area for the dampener, and there's just a little seat that it rests on, and then the way these little gray things are formed, they hold the dampener in place, but they also hold the balanced armatures, because typically, in order to have both balanced armatures together, you would have to, traditionally speaking, as far as like traditional construction, you would have to use a tube. Okay, so there you can have a better look at it. So traditionally you would have a tube, and you would have to stretch the end of the tube out, and it would have to fit over both BA, and then you'd have to add resin to kind of fill in the gaps. But in this case, they can just print these little things here, and then just go bloop and stick them right over the balanced armatures, and it makes assembly way easier, and also the positioning stays the same. When you're stretching a tube, if you don't stretch it properly, it can have like different issues where it's kind of angled, like the balanced armatures can kind of face a little down or a little up, or like one side can get a little more impeded than the other. There's various things. For the most part, the tubing is pretty forgiving, but it's not as symmetrical as a print, for example. And also, the plastic material that they're printing with is harder than PVC. So, you know, high frequencies and stuff carry just a little bit better. I think the clarity is probably just a little bit better than if they were using a tube. But anyway, so there are the two high frequency balanced armatures, and you can see, so the way they're stacked on top of each other. So that's the bottom with the two dots, and that's the top without the two dots. So they literally just stuck two balanced armatures on top of each other. So these are separate. This is not like one of those units, because they both have spouts. So this is not like a 31736 where it's two balanced armatures that share the same spout. These are just two cheap balanced armatures, and this also makes the cost cheaper to them, because they're using the same part, but they're using more of them to make different things. So like they'll put two together, sometimes they'll put four together, and they literally just use the same model over and over and over and over and over again. And because they're buying them in higher volume, they're saving more money. And then also, so because they're stacked on top of each other, top to bottom, you know, kind of thing, they have to wire them. Like when they go to wire them, it's not like you would see where they're kind of flipped, like on the 31736 or whatever, where the wires go diagonally. So for example, let's see. So yeah, so this is the top side, okay? So this is the positive side. So the right side is always the positive side on a balanced armature when viewing the top, okay? So when you're looking at the top, the right side is always the positive. So we have our wire for positive and wire for negative, but if one of these were flipped, the wires would be diagonal. So you would have to solder diagonally in this like X pattern, which you see a ton of on balanced armatures, especially double balanced armatures like this. Like for example, so here's one. So this is a Belzing, but you can see that because they share one nozzle, the openings, that one of them has to be flipped. So both openings are in the middle, so that way they can both share the single nozzle. So because one of them has to be flipped, you have to wire them diagonally, because your positive here on the right side bottom is going to be on the top left, and then same thing with the negative. Negative is going to be bottom left and top right. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you guys. But yeah, since these are you know, they both are just single BAs, you can just stack them on top of each other, and it makes wiring more simple because you're just going straight, you're not going across. So you just go boop, boop. So positive on the right, negative on the left, and then that's it. And then you just go off, and your connections go off. Anyway, so and then here are the mid BA, and also, so I was right about these being e-audio because, for example, see the two dots on the bottom, and then on the top here, there's no branding whatsoever. So there's no branding anywhere on the balanced armatures. That's very indicative of e-audio. They will brand them for you, but it's an extra cost to have them like laser etched or whatever. But the cheapest e-audio BA are ones that are stock, and the stock ones are not branded, so they have no branding on them whatsoever. And then take a look at these. Ooh. Ooh, okay, so these are not e-audio. All right, so let me take this stuff off. All right, so these are not e-audio. Wow. So they're using higher end balanced armatures. Nice. All right, so this is, so from all accounts, looking at the back, like I said, e-audio do not normally have these black PCBs. And I was right. I need to fix this nozzle. Shit, I broke that. I fucked that one nozzle up. Oh well, whatever. It'll still make noise. Yeah, I kind of boogered up that one nozzle, but I can fix it. Anyway, but yeah, so yeah, you see in this case how they're wired up crisscross. So they did crisscross for the mid BAs. But yeah, these are not e-audio. They look like e-audio from the back. But I forgot Sonyan does the same thing as far as the dots go. Because I noticed the shells look a little bit different, and they have these little marks here or whatever, these little indentations, and that is not, e-audio does not do that. I should have known. But yeah, these are Sonyan. Look at that. 2356. So these are 23 series. 2356 HF. So HF meaning high frequency, I assume. Oh, you can't see that one because that one's upside down. But yeah, these are Sonyan. Wow, fancy guys. And this is one of the cheaper IMs. So yeah, so Sonyan mids. Wow, I did not know that. Sonyan mids. E-audio treble. And then what do we have for our dynamic driver here? Let's open this up and see what's inside. So yeah, so real quick, so this is the back. This is just a plastic cap that's 3D printed and just stuck onto the driver. And then the spout comes off the side, and what that does is a lot of the high frequencies and mid frequencies kind of bounce off this this back here and just kind of like reverberate back and forth. And they decay. They eventually decay. But only the frequencies that are bounced off to the side exit. So it's like a natural low pass. So it kind of cuts some of the highs. And basically it's like a natural low pass when you have the port come directly off the side of the driver. Now, does that cause some kind of like unevenness with the driver, with like the diaphragm? Maybe, possibly, yeah. I would imagine that it would do like a ripple, like a wave almost, and there would be like some lag in like one direction. And you'd probably get like a little bit of ringing or whatever. But because this is being used for only low frequencies, I guess it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so anyway, so that is the dynamic driver. Now, I did not see... Yeah, I'm looking around. I did not see any kind of like dampener or anything for the woofer. I guess I'll have to check on the second one. This one I'm not really being careful about taking apart because I'm doing it on camera for you guys. I'm just trying to be somewhat quick while I describe what's going on. Okay, yeah, there is a dampener. It's inside. I don't know if you can see that, but there is a a dampener. It's hard to see, but yeah, there is a dampener in there. But anyway, so yeah, let's try to get that in focus. All right. And then yeah, so the second one I'm going to be a lot more careful because I would like to clone this, this little cap here. But yeah, so let's look at the other side. Yeah, so there's the dampener. Let's see if I can get it out here. I wonder if these are different values of dampener, but they all just happen to be black. Oh, sorry guys, I'm doing this off camera. Give me my dampener. Yeah, so there we go. So there's the dampener. So let me grab the other ones real quick. Yeah, those are definitely different values. So they're all black. Weird. So these are all black dampeners, but they are indeed different values. Yeah, all three of these are a different value. So this one on the right is for the treble BA. This one's for the mid, and that's for the bass. And they are all different values, but they all are black. So there's no difference in color to signify what's what. So I guess they just keep track of them from the factory. And also, the one for the dynamic driver is also slightly smaller in diameter than the mid and the treble dampener. Wow, that's pretty crazy. That's cool though. That's awesome. Yeah, it gives me more of an appreciation for GS Audio. That's pretty clever. So let me pause real quick. I'm gonna put these somewhere safe because I want to measure them eventually. All right, so I got them nice and safe in my little container there, just right in there. All right, so let's take a look at this dynamic driver because I'm very curious what it looks like. But yeah, so anyway, so there's, you could tell it's 3D printed because of how raw, whoops, because of how raw the print is. I don't know. Weird. Yeah, you can see how raw that print is. But anyway, yeah, so that is 3D printed, and then the driver's inside. Cool, man. All right, so let's liberate this driver, baby. Come on, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it to it. All right. All right, so there's a piece. Oh, this is some sort of like carbon driver. All right, this is a bespoke driver. Wow. Yeah, so that is some sort of bespoke driver. Damn, I kind of feel bad about taking these apart. Oh well, whatever. I learn. And I could technically put them back together eventually. But yeah, so here's the driver. You'll notice a couple things. So the diaphragm is actually a little darker. Like if you look at the magnet. Now, I'm not sure how good the quality is that you can see. I'm looking at the phone from an angle, so it looks like potato cam quality to me. But yeah, so you can see the driver here, and in real life, the diaphragm is much darker, and it's very shiny, very reflective. So it is definitely a very high quality diaphragm. This is definitely a high quality diaphragm, and yeah, this is definitely some sort of bespoke driver. It looks surprisingly good quality. From the back, you would never notice. Like from the back, you'd just be like, oh yeah, that's any cheap 10 millimeter, TWS. They call this TWS because they're thin, which it's easier to fit them in different areas. Like for instance, the ones I'm using, these wouldn't be classified as like TWS style because they're so thick. You can see the difference in thickness. TWS is almost like half the thickness of the other one. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, that's pretty neat. But yeah, this is an interesting driver. Very interesting. So it looks like it's got some kind of carbon coating, just because it's a little bit darker. It's just a touch. So anyway, cool. So yeah, so that is a look at the GS Audio GD5. So again, just to recap, we have our 10 millimeter driver. Okay, that's a bespoke driver that GS Audio uses. It looks of fairly high quality. Then we have our little crossover or frequency divider board, which is really only dividing the highs. So we have the mids, the lows, or vice versa, and the highs here. So it's only technically a two-way frequency divider because you have your low stuff or your full range. Come on, and then you have your highs. So there is that. That's kind of cool. That also saves money because it's a lot easier. So Canera, they wire a lot of their stuff in series. They don't really use PCBs. And I don't understand why. I think they should, just because it would make their manufacturing a lot easier and cheaper. But they do it old school. Canera does it like they actually wire stuff in series with the drivers, like kind of like I do. Like that. Now this is prototype crap that I took apart, so ignore the nasty, ugly solder. But this is essentially what Canera does, is they do direct, point to point. They call this point to point wiring. But yeah, that's essentially what Canera does. They do the same thing, point to point wiring instead of a PCB. And that's pretty much true for every single Canera IM that I've ever seen. But yeah, and then so there's our treble BA. And just for shits and giggles, I will separate them because I am curious if there is any markings. No. Nope, no markings whatsoever. So yeah, I'm still pretty positive that these are e-audio BA. So there's our two treble BA. I will eventually measure those because I have other treble BA from GS Audio that came out of their 12 BA IM, and I'm curious to see if there's any updates from the one that I took apart to this one, if they're using like slightly better quality or whatever. And then just to recap, we have two Sonian drivers. So yeah, very nice. So this is essentially what you get in the GS Audio GD5. So we have our two Sonian mids, which is very surprising to see. Two e-audio treble BA, which is kind of disappointing. If they're going to use such high quality mids, why not use like cheaper mids? Because the mid range doesn't matter as much as the treble. They could have easily used two e-audio mids, and they would have sounded just as good, if not maybe better, than these Sonians. And then and then use like Sonyan or Knowles for the treble BA, because you can definitely tell there's a little bit of that chalky, uh, sizzly, kind of timbre. I prefer e-audio BA over for treble. At least I prefer e-audio treble BA over Belsing any day. But if I had to take my pick, I would choose either Sonyan for treble BA or Knowles, because the difference in quality between the two is just so much different. Knowles and Sonyan really know how to make some treble BA, and for whatever reason, brands like E-Audio and Belsing just haven't quite gotten to their level yet. I mean, they're close. I think the average listener wouldn't be able to distinguish the difference in quality, but there is definitely a jump in quality when you go from these to Knowles or to Sonyan. At least for me, and it's definitely audible in like my OnePlus 3, for example. So this is one of my OnePlus 3s. But yeah, like if I were to use the e-audio in here, like I would definitely tell the difference between the e-audio and the Knowles. In fact, in my OnePlus 3, the only Knowles BA is the treble BA. All the rest are e-audio. And the reason why is because the Knowles there's just no competition. There's no replacement for the treble that these do. And you can even see I'm using no dampening, so there's no dampener for the treble. Only dampening is being done on the mids and the bass driver or the woofer. So, all right, before we go, I'm gonna show you guys a graph real quick, because I had a lot of people asking me about a graph on the last IM that I posted. So I'm gonna show you a graph, and then we'll wrap up the video. Alright guys, so this is the graph of the GS Audio GD5, and you can see they like this kind of like neutral DF neutral tuning, so you got a little bit of a bass slopes down when it comes to the lows. The woofer is really not doing too much in this IM, unfortunately. I want to say the majority of this is actually from the balanced armatures, the mids, but I could be wrong. I'll find out when I graph the individual drivers, but yeah. So anyway, so it's got this little slope. It's got a very wide bass kind of slope or whatever. So this IM is very good for like male vocals and stringed instruments, cellos, bass, all that stuff. You get a lot of that because the difference in gain between the lowest point and like the Pina, come on, focus. So yeah, so between the lowest point and the Pina is it's like 8 dB. It's less than 10 dB. Okay, you do have this little spike here around 5K. Now that will present like as a lot of clarity and resolution. Some people might not like it, but it's not really noticeable for me. At least it doesn't bother me at all. They do sound a touch like, resolving, a little bit bright. But yeah, this 5-6K area is notorious for IMs that are trying to be like trying to boost their technical ability or the technical level, just because this is where a lot of information is. This is where you get the majority of your technicalities that coincide with tonality. Okay, so this is where your technicalities and your tonality coincide. So this is the area that you would want to boost if you want to keep the two. Now, unfortunately, this is also a pain point for a lot of listeners, especially the 5K. So for some people, that's a big no-no, and they're very sensitive to that. But unfortunately, so like some IMs, they'll sound very detailed or resolving or whatever, because they have a very boosted upper treble air region. But there's no tonality to these frequencies up here. Humans don't really perceive tone in this area. It's more just sharpness or timbre, you know, like bells, chimes, tambourines, sibilants, P's, S's, that kind of stuff. So anyway, but yeah, so those are the two areas where you can really squeeze out some technical advantage or resolution. But anyway, so yeah, so it's got an interesting peanut gain. It like kind of curves and then it tapers out here at the what is it, 4 to 5K, and then you get this 6K peak here, and then you get your 8K. I presume that's not a coupler artifact. I believe that is part of the actual IM. And then once you hit past 10K, you get your drop off, but it's a nice steady extension up till we got 16s right here. So 16, yeah, so really extension right up to 16K before it really drops off. So yeah, I mean, they did a great job. They know what they're doing. At least with this model, very very decent offering from GS Audio. They definitely did pretty well. And now, is it the best I am? No. Is it the best bang for the buck? Probably not. But it's an all-around player, and if you're looking for that neutral, kind of like DF neutral signature, this would definitely be one to latch onto, and I think is an underrated gem and maybe a much forgotten IM. I think everybody's really obsessed with a lot of the new releases, and they're too busy to notice some of the older releases that still kind of shine. So maybe check them out. Maybe see what you like. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is going to conclude my GS Audio GD5 teardown. Of course, my super messy workbench. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.